How's it going, everyone? It's Heaven's Mouthpiece here again with another video. I know I'm coming up with a lot of these and I hope to be bringing more to you guys. Today I am doing a review on a book that a good friend lent to me and suggested. It is the first nonfiction I've read in a long time, and I'm very excited to bring you a review on The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, this book focuses on how the little things can make a big difference. Gladwell seeks to find a method to the madness when it comes to epidemiology. If you don't know what that is, it's about how things spread. Think of epidemics like sickness, or just how things just become more effective over time in exponential patterns. He does this by going over a number of case studies, and I'd say this is more of just an overview of case studies rather than a book put together on its own, but he does have a lot of thoughtful analysis here. And what he's ultimately trying to find is the tipping point. The tipping point is when something becomes massively effective. The point where an idea or a movement really gets over that hump and shoots to the moon in terms of popularity. He does this by going over these case studies. The main ones which I really want to review here today is the Paul Revere case study, the children's television case study, and the subway case study. Hey guys, sorry for the quick cut here. I forgot to include this in the video, but I do really like this book. I would give it a 6.5, maybe a 7 out of 10. 7.5 if you're feeling good and you're really into nonfiction. But I do like this book and I'd recommend it to a friend. Back to the video. The way that Gladwell combines these several case studies, these being the most important in my opinion, is quite magical in its sense that it really drives you to a point on discovering how you can create these tipping points. The first one is the Paul Revere case study. And here he goes over different personality types, which are extremely important to starting revolutions. Now, there were two people, I guess, when Paul Revere warned that the British were coming, and that's American history. If you want to look some more up on that, you can. But two people were told about this, but Paul Revere was the guy who really made the change. No one really even knows about the other guy, because Paul Revere was someone who was able to connect a bunch of different people. Malcolm Gladwell outlines 3 different personality types which he thinks are very effective in communicating different things, and these different personality types need to be combined to create a significant amount of change. The second case study we have that he examines is on children's television shows, specifically Sesame Street or Blue's Clues. I don't know if any of you guys watched those growing up, but I definitely did. And I can't remember everything that went on, but I really liked the show, and I think it helped me learn how to read. These are educational shows for children. And the people who made these shows were not just, average Joe Schmoes making Cocomelon and singing songs. They were doing very hard research on trying how to raise literacy in America. They did this by experimenting with small groups and determining what mattered. Now, Sesame Street was very effective in helping people become readers, especially in early childhood, but Blue's Clues is where they really found what worked. And it wasn't just, oh, let's put this in the TV show, let's put that in the TV show. They tried something totally new. They said, hey, let's play the same TV show over and over for these kids, and then they're going to learn something. That's what worked. It ended up being that, you can put whatever you want in a TV show. Certain things really did help, and that's what Sesame discovered. But what Blue's Clues really discovered was repetition was key for instilling information into young children. And it's also very important for people later in life who don't have comprehension on really tough subjects. This informs the tipping point by letting us know that making gradual and very small changes, whether they might not seem very obvious, can have very large effects on what happens in terms of tipping over to having a massive effect on society. Now, the last case study here is about the subways in New York during, I think it was the 80s. New York is an extremely dangerous city, and I love the city of New York. It's super fun to go to. Still a lot of trash there. I'd still recommend it because there's no place like New York, but the crime is nowhere near what it used to be. This is for several reasons. Gladwell goes over many things that didn't work, and what may have seemed like it was working, like increasing police budgets. None of that was working for New York, and while crime had plummeted across the nation, it had never really hit New York, because New York's a bit of a cesspool when you go to. You can't really tame New York. It's like 9 million people and like 1 square foot. I mean, obviously it's not like that, but there's rats everywhere and tons of people. In this case study, he goes over the person who was in charge of all the policing, the criminal activity, and trying to stop this crime from happening because it was rampant. Most dangerous city in America by far. Now, he discovered that, not even discovered this, but he was like, hey, let's take a step back and let's not police so tough. Let's actually roll back our police spending and let's focus on the environment that they put people into. This is called the broken window theory. This theory says that if the area that people are in, the setting, is not good or is perceived as something that's dangerous or decrepit, breaking down, you get the idea, there's lots of broken windows, that crime is a lot more likely to happen. Now, this was all just a theory. It hadn't really been tested too much, but there were some people who were on board with trying this. Where they first decided to start doing this program was the subway. The subway was where most of the crime was happening. It's underground, it's hard to police the area, and it's just where a lot of bad things can happen. If you've ridden the subway in New York City, you can understand why it would be a bad place to be, especially when crime is really bad. Now, these subway stations were just covered in graffiti. The cars, everything. People were jumping the tolls like nonstop, and very violent crime was extremely prevalent. His idea was, let's just like make the subway super nice, arrest tons of people who are trying to like jump over fares and like not pay for like the 1 cent thing it takes to ride the subway. And it worked. They ended up finding that most of the people who were breaking these small laws, like jumping the fare, were actually the people who were committing the much more violent crimes. So they're arresting them way before time, catching them before they ever commit any crime, and it deterred them from ever creating any additional crimes. Now, this combined with just cleaning up the subways and making it seem like the space was nice really inspired people to not commit crime. It seemed like a place that they were in that they shouldn't be committing crime. They go over some other studies where they try this in other places and people are like 80% less likely to commit crimes in areas which they perceive as nice. And this really informs how people think. This is what somewhat I would call the Virgil Abloh effect. The setting that you put something in is a lot more important than you think when it comes to creating an environment, a movement, or presenting ideas. Overall, I think Gladwell presents a really convincing argument here that finding the right kinds of people, the right setting, and just incrementally changing certain things, like in Blue's Clues, will really help you find the tipping point. And the tipping point, I think, is especially poignant in today, especially when a lot of people are dealing with depression, anxiety, and lots of other things, taking these radical actions, which they think that they need to take in order to make themselves happier or just make themselves more fit. All you need are small changes to make these things happen in your life, whether it be going outside more, going to the gym, hanging out with friends more often than you do, maybe reading a book. All these things are very small things which can help you find the tipping point. The tipping point illustrates that a lot of the things that we think might not help us can really help us a lot more than we think, and they're very small changes that we can make. I think this quote here that I'm about to read you really illustrates the whole point of the book and something that really resonated with me. The world, much as we want it to, does not accord with our intuition. And just because we think we have all the answers and we think really complex things can help us, small band-aid solutions are sometimes what we need to make these giant changes in our lives. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, by the way. This was a really fun video to make. I really enjoy making these videos. If you could please like this video, drop a comment about what you thought about this book if you've read it. I'd love to respond with you and have a little discourse in the comments. You can always follow my Instagram. And if you really like these videos and you like what I'm doing, please subscribe because it really helps a lot when creating these videos. I get extremely happy when I see someone subscribe to my channel. Now, I'll catch you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a great day.